And good afternoon, everybody. Today is August 6th, 2021. Today is Tuesday. This is Vinny Miletti with Miletti Law, the strongest name in law. I am Vinny Miletti, owner, founder, partner, lead, boss, Mac Daddy, everything, God King here at Miletti Law. First and foremost, go hit that subscribe button. You're watching this video, more free stuff. You guys and girls love this stuff. I'll keep delivering content, but in order for me to do so, you obviously need to like and subscribe so you can actually get it in your inbox. Join the newsletter. Go to the website, www.milettilaw.com. Sign up to the newsletter. Okay, so let's get down to it. So today we're going to begin something a little bit differently. Today we're going to kind of focus more on the regulatory thing. So Miletti Law gets involved in a lot of things. So one of the three pillars of things that we usually do is employment law, intellectual property, and issues in e-commerce. One of the issues you come across with in e-commerce a lot happens to be regulatory agencies, things like the EPA, things like the FDA, the California Air Resource Board. These, agencies like that are often, you deal with them on a daily basis when it comes to e-commerce and regulatory industry, regulatory bodies. So today we're talking about the FDA. So, we're going to go on a little bit. Another thing I want to just point out as a preliminary matter, when it comes to regulatory agencies, it's extremely formal and extremely detailed. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Your definition of things might not be, what you've grown up believing them to be. Because keep in mind, when a regulatory agency passes a law, especially under the Food and Drug Act, when they pass rules and regulations, they have to try to encompass as much as possible, but at the same time be specific. Because what happens if the law is too broad, if the law encompasses too much, you can't narrow it down to anything. It's almost impossible to have ingenuity. It's impossible to have development in the industry. If the law is too narrow, then the bad guys and girls get away with everything. So there's always that fine line between when it comes to. There's always that fine line when it comes to how aggressive a law could be versus how lax it could be, how specific law has to be versus how broad and generalized it has to be. So regulatory law is very, again, counterintuitive. You don't think about it. Today we're going to talk about the FDA, what it means to be a drug. It's things that you would never think would make a drug, right? So look, let's get down to it. So one of the first things I want to start is what qualifies something as a drug. So keep in mind, a drug is a legal term, right? So it's not something in of itself, a substance in of itself is just not a drug. It's got to meet certain legal requirements. Just because it was made in a lab, it's not a drug. I mean, it's a drug is a legal term, right? So it has to have certain elements, has to have certain underlying features. So under the FDA Act, the Food and Drug Act, 21 U.S.C. 321. So a substance is considered a drug if all four of these categories are met. If the substance is recognized in an official record book, so the FDA has to recognize it or whatever records they keep on it. If the product is intended for use in the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of any disease in man or animals, that's very broad. Treatment is very broad. Diagnosis is very broad. The mitigation is very broad, and the term disease is very broad. So all those are very broad terms. The third part is, it's an article other than food. So what does that tell you? If it's something that's food or a derivative from food, it's not going to fall under this broad definition of drug. And the fourth aspect is the particular product is intended for use in any matter under section A, B, C above. So A was that the substance is recognized in the official record. B was that the particular substance is intended for use in the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, and prevention of a disease in man or animals. C, it's an article other than food. And D, it's intended for use in any matter with the preceding A, B, C. So this is what I'm talking about. It's very formal. It's a very formal thing. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So just bear with me. We're going to walk through all this stuff. When it comes to, think about what we just had here. So if it's an article other than food, or if it's intended for the use and diagnosis or treatment of something, there is an exception that if there's a truthful and non-misleading label that's made in accordance with another statute. So let's say, you know, you have this product, it's on a list or whatever the case is, or some portion of it is on a list. It's intended for use in the diagnosis of something according to the label. It's something other than just a food stuff, and it's intended for use in, you know, the preceding sections. If there is a truthful and non-misleading label discussing this, a label on the packaging of this particular product, then it can fall out of it's considered an exception to a drug. So for instance, if the statement just describes something that's a general well-being from a particular consumption of a particular nutrient or particular ingredient. So remember, it has to meet 3 requirements. Requirement number 1 is that the label has to be truthful and non-misleading. The label has to say that the product you're talking about just describes general well-being, that the consumption of the nutrient or product, it contributes to the overall general well-being of the person, that the manufacturer has substantive information of the statement. So I don't know, vitamin C is good for our immune system, which apparently is not the rule anymore, which is why these things come up. And then the third aspect is that the statement contains some kind of standard disclaimer that you've seen this disclaimer. It's on almost every single product that's in the world. So for instance, like any single product, right? You see the same standard disclaimer. It's on basically every supplement out there. It's, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. So if the labeling is truthful and non-misleading, it will, and it has those 3 elements in it, it's considered, it falls outside the definition of a drug. It falls outside of, it's something that you could buy over the counter. It has all the formalities that it needs, and it gets out of the regulation. Very technical, very difficult to follow. Just keep in mind, the big idea, the big picture I'm trying to convey to you here, the biggest picture I'm trying to convey to you here is just simply put that depending on your labeling and what you say that your product can do, that is what will classify it. That is one of the things that can potentially classify it as a drug. So keep in mind that it may not be a drug at all in any way, shape, or form, but because of the way you spin it, because of the way you label it, because of the way you speak about it, turns it into a drug. So that's the critical point that I'm trying to make in this particular video. I kind of want to stop this short video here. I kind of want to stop the short video here simply because this is extremely technical stuff. Take a moment to think about it. Take a moment to review the body, the description of the video. Should have a little bit of info in there for you to take a look and check it out. But this is extremely technical stuff. So this is part 1 of this series. There's going to be about 4 or 5 parts of the series. In every case, is just to kind of walk you through the process. And we'll talk about some more. So this is part 1 of the series, and we will revisit more often. We will visit as we go along. So part 2 to follow shortly. Have a good day.